So thank you for sticking around. Today we're gonna learn a little bit about coding, not necessarily only exclusively with Roblox Lua, but actually this is from Python or JavaScript. But in any programming language, really, you're gonna be using something called loops, and we already talked about variables, and there are different kinds of loops. And so I'm going to try to go into this place over here, and it doesn't really matter what the script in this at this point we put this into, because I'm not gonna really have any part of or object do the function, but I guess wanted to show you how would you go around doing a loop or a loop programming. So this one is a game that we created a while back to input a part and talk about properties, you know, of the object. Okay, and so as you can see, the output is over here on the bottom. And so I'm going to try on this part to talk about while loops. While loops are a bit of code that can be written to execute repeatedly. And for this demonstration, I will be making a parse transparency go from 0.3 to 0.7 repeatedly. Hopefully it will work. I normally get the codes from online or different books, and sometimes you go all the way to the end of the code and it doesn't work, or if I made mistakes like anybody else and I put it in the wrong place. So remember that one of the things about being a developer programmer is that you make mistakes, and that's how you learn. So we're gonna do first, we're gonna enter the part into our game. And so when we go to the model tab, let me click over here. And this is the model tab over here. And we're going to put part. I'm going to search for a part, even though we can also create it. Then we right click and the explorer under workspace. And we're going to insert object. We going down. You can see insert object here. And then under workspace, click insert object, then select script. So we're going under is, there it is, script. And so this is creating a script inside of a part that we haven't really put in there yet, but I just wanted to show you the code. As always, remember that every script that's in Lua has the word print hello world, because that is going to tell us that we can add code here. You can also delete the code that is in there. And now we're going to open the script, and then we're going to enter a bit of code. To create a part on the game, we're going to use part equals game. And then remember, we're given a hierarchy of source, or a level of source. And we know this part is going to be in the game under workspace. And then we're going to call it part. And I'm going to put primary part. I'm not sure why part doesn't come by itself, but it might be because sometimes when you're looking for code online or in books, the books might be outdated, or Lua Roblox programmers have created a different way of naming parts. So it might be primary part or secondary part or just part. Okay. This code tells the script what a part means. Then we're going to hit the key enter twice, 1, 2, and in while true do as shown below, we're going to create what is called a while loop. While true do. And I'm not sure, let me do this again. While true. I like to click on it because sometimes it's better when you do this instead of you want to allow the game to tell you what to do because the versions vary. Okay. Next, we're gonna hit the enter key and ANGELS will appear, and we did. And if not, just simply write it yourself. Now, between the while true, do, and the end is where the code that you want repeated will go. So you want it starting over here on line 4. So we talk about a part. We wanted to change the part transparency. And part will be the part, right? We haven't given it a name. If you wanted to give it a name, then you should change it here and here, okay? These two should have the same name. And transparency is the method. And so we want them to make sure that we're doing it correctly. And then we're going to put 0.3. Then we're going to wait. You can see how this is in a bend, right? The computer's going to wait, and we're going to put 1. And remember, this is 1 for 1 second. All right. Now we're going to go back to line 6, and we're going to input more code in which the transparency is going to change. So pretty much what we're doing is we're doing a loop in which the part changes 0.3 waits a second, then it changes to 0.7, then goes back and changes to 0.3, and then it goes back again and changes, and so on. Now, always when you finish your code, make sure that you did everything correctly and that there's no mistakes as far as putting an extra period or comma or forgetting a parentheses or anything like that. With a bit of code being repeated, it will repeatedly change the transparency of the part. Another way to use a while loop is to have it activated when it meets a certain condition. For example, if we set the part transparency to 0.5, then we can enter the code game workspace part transparency -5. But we have to make sure the part is inserted into the base plate. So this is a while true do loop. Alright, so now let's learn a little bit about for loop. What is a for loop? Let me delete this so I can show you for loop. So a for loop are easy to begin learning. Basically, they are countdowns. And this is extremely important in Roblox Lua because most of the game that children play or even grown-ups play, or, you know, right? We're going to be playing those games, involve some kind of countdown. Countdown to finish the game, countdown to touch the lava and die, countdown to pick up the coins, countdown to get your Lamborghini working, whatever it is that you're doing. However, you can apply them to other aspects of your game. So here's an example of a for loop in a code. For example, message. And we have instance. We're telling the game to do a new instance, so message. New. Creates a new object of this variable. And so the object will be parented to that object. And then part. And I'll explain what this means in a second. We're going to put a comma, game, workspace. And now the for loop is for I equals num and numDo. Message text equals intermission. This is really helpful when you're creating games that, for example, players are playing, they're playing a game and all of a sudden you said all the players die, and then you want to put an intermission between the game. Like for example, there's a game named Curse Islands, or It. You know, the kids play hide and seek game, in which somebody is it, and when all the players have been found, then the game has an intermission of 14 seconds or 24 seconds between the next, you know, wave of games. And then you put the amount of time that you want to wait. Normally this is longer than obviously 1 second, and then end. So this is an instance or a message. So these numbers like num, num, and numpar are for addressing how long your countdown is. So for example, I could use 20, 0, minus 1 to count down for 20 seconds. The 0 part is how far you want the game to count down to. Of course, I want 20 to count down to 0. So if I did 20, 0. Now the minus 1 part, this is how much you want your countdown to go by. For example, if I wanted to go down from 10, I'll do minus 10. You can also make the count go up by doing something like, and I'm talking about over here, right? Instead of num do, you could do 0, 525. This will make your script to count from 0 to 500 by 25 seconds each. Alright, so let me show you how one of those looks like. The first part will be the same, and then on the second one, instead of none and num do, we'll put here for I equals 20, 0 minus 1 do. And then here at intermission, I wait in. So in this instance, you are count down by 20 seconds to 0 by changing the number as shown below in every minus 1. Alright, we already talked about functions, but I wanted to go through some functions also. And you know that a function is a group of code that can be executed with a simple one-word phrase, but with the added parentheses at the end. And the first one that we learned, of course, was print. You know, print is one of those functions. And some of the functions are already embedded in the programming, either that be in Python or in JavaScript or Lua Roblox programming. But to start a function, pretty much what you're doing is you're giving the function name between the parentheses. In order for the function to work, like for example in print, you just need to hit the enter key and make sure that you have end at the end of the chunk of code that you're using. Sometimes this is not necessary if you are like me, showing just a function print. If you say x equals 5 and x, you give a variable in value, for example, and then you say print x, right? So we know that if we run it, then we'll get 5, as you can see on the bottom. To make the function work, you want to hit enter twice under end normally, or wait a couple seconds to show on the output function. Now we talk about methods, and I wanted to go back into the output, into my script here. And remember that methods, we haven't studied all of them. We just saw touch and countdown and move to and clone, but destroy, remove, and clone, or find the first child are very important. So remove will remove an item or part. Like for example, if you write something like par, remove, and you have to put them together so they know that one is the method and one is the part. And then another one will be part destroy. So you're going to use this ones when you have a player that touches a part and it gets destroyed, right? Dies. or if you want every time a player touches something, the part gets removed or disappears. We also have part clone. So somebody touches a coin and all of a sudden they touch it, they get 3 coins, so 2 coins. It clones in itself. There are so many of them. You can remove joins between objects, or moves item to another location with like move to. You move to will move an object to a new location. Destroy is the method you use. You want to your script to completely remove and destroy traces of something in the script. Remove is a method to use in the script when you would like something to be removed. We already talked about events, which are activated when a certain trigger is met. For example, touching a part or a player joining. I believe we covered that in another video. But to do this, you always want to go under View, Tab, and then Object Browser. So we go into View, and then we go under Object Browser, which is here. As you do that, you can see, all of these, right? We were talking about those. All of these are methods. And these are all events. And you can tell by the little animations, aligning. All of these are actions that something can do. And so once you get into Roblox and advance a little, and you learn how to create humanoids, then you learn how to do a humanoid that catches a speed when it touches a part, or you know, they change their language, or they turn right, or they you know, they follow a different path, or there's so many things that you can do. I wanted to thank you for this time, and I hope that you enjoy Roblox programming. This is just a basic course. There is a lot of different stuff, and the truth is that it all depends on you and your imagination. You can create anything you want to just by going into Roblox Lua and learn how to script. But I wanted to show you how to start in some of the basics. Thank you so much, and I hope I see you on the second part of the Roblox Lua programming, which will be coming in a couple of months. Thank you so much. Have a great day.